Welcome, everybody, to the Anything Liverpool podcast. I'm joined by Dylan and Harj as we dive into everything to do with tonight's game, Liverpool against Atletico Madrid. And there's some big team news coming in straight away. Yes, Frimpong's come in for Sobosai, sorry, at right back, and Robertson has come in for Kirkes. But the big news is that ISAK starts and makes his debut under the lights at Anfield. So, Harj, I'm going to come over to you, pal, first. What's your thoughts on ISAK making his debut?
First, I wish I'd gone now. So, but yeah, no, I'm. You know what? It's all the signings we've done. This is the one now. This is the one I'm really excited. It's the first. Now we've signed Wirtz and we've signed the other signings. Good signings, even Virgil and Alisson. This is, I think, it just feels like the first blockbuster signing since Torres. Proper, it's like we've got him. And I just think the fact that he really wants to play for us, I just can't wait. I just want to see him in a red shirt, and let's just see what he does. So yeah, I'm just well excited. I'm on ISAK watch today. Yeah.
ISAK watch today, and we've obviously Hugo Ekitike's made a blistering start in a red shirt and everything else. Just wondering, Dylan, do you think things will change with ISAK coming in, with Alexander coming in for Hugo? Do you think it'll be much the same? How do you see the Liverpool team kind of playing with ISAK leading the line?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it, over the next few weeks to kind of see how that dynamic's going to work because, like you said, it can't be forgotten how well Ekitike has started. He's come in and he's slotted pretty much straight into what he needs to do. But touching on what Harj was kind of saying there, this is the blockbuster one. This is the one people have been waiting for to kind of see what can ISAK do in this team and how can we create enough chances to get him as many goals as Salah and kind of in the same season with the two of them scoring as many goals. That's so exciting to even think about. But I do think in the fact that he has come as soon as he's kind of been deemed fit to straight into the starting team, almost kind of solidifies it that everyone kind of knew it already, but he is going to come in and be that number one choice. And then Ekitike will have to kind of work around that. But yeah, let's not forget how well he's done in the first couple of weeks. And quite rightfully, he'll keep pushing ISAK over the next couple of weeks to make sure they're both keeping on par with each other. Otherwise, one or the other will have to jump in instead of each other. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and Arne Slot said at the weekend that ISAK will get 45 to 60 minutes. So we know there's definitely going to be a sub in there with Ekitike, most probably. Although he has been taken off Ekitike for Chiesa, so maybe it's an opportunity to see Ekitike out wide. Do you think it will have much an effect on the Salah-Wirtz relationship at the moment? Because Salah, I feel like he's been a bit too wide for too long. He's brilliant when he's wide and then comes narrow. He seems to be stuck out wide at the beginning of the season. Do you think the introduction of ISAK might change the way that we see that link up? Because we need to get Salah into the game more, don't we, Harj? What's going on there?
Yeah, so you know me from a previous pod. I'm a bit of a boring tactical nerd, and I spoke around this on the show on Monday. And I was looking at the heat maps and the way that actually Wirtz plays and the way he plays for Leverkusen. And the way so he's naturally attracted to the left, yeah, the way he plays, because that's to cut in onto his right. And Ekitike, when he drops deep, is naturally attracted to the left as well. So Salah obviously staying wide because our fullbacks are coming in narrow, but he's almost left isolated, especially when Dom's inverting. It's a big gap. And what I know about ISAK and how he plays, he's naturally attracted to the right. So I actually think that he's gonna the way that the bad word Nunes, he sort of linked up with Salah when he played up front. He sort of gravitated towards the right, and Salah just played the 1-2s off him, and off he went. I think ISAK's gonna occupy that space, and then it's going to allow Salah to get more integrated in him, and then you're going to see Frimpong. Because I thought his link-up play with Frimpong against Bournemouth was really, really good. And then, especially in the Charity Shield as well. And then we haven't seen Frimpong since. So I think it's more around, I know people say it's not systems. I think it's system-based. And the fact that we've just made do with what we've got so far around fitness. Now I think Salah tonight is going to be the Salah that we know and love.
So Dylan, I'm going to come over to you then, and I'm going to come to you first for this one. Isak, we know he's going to get 45 to 60, probably more like 45, really closer to that kind of minute mark. Do you think he gets on the score sheet today on his debut?
Oh, I'd love to see it, wouldn't you? And we were kind of touching on it before we went on. We were saying kind of how Atletico Madrid might set up. So if we were to kind of score early, it kind of almost nullifies that. So fingers crossed he's right on it from the start, and we do get a goal in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, because not only it'll be good for his confidence and everything else, it'll also open the game up for us a little bit later on. So yeah, why not? Let's go with first half an hour. Isak to get his first goal for
First
Liverpool.
half
Why
an hour.
not?
Harsh, do you agree with that, or do you think we're going to have to wait a little bit longer?
No, I think Dylan's spot on. I just think he's, it's like it's like that. It's when you're waiting for that Uber Eats and it takes so bloody long, and you just shut that door and you're right into that pizza. I think Isak's gonna be right into his waited so long, and I think he's gonna have that nervous energy, and I think for the first 45 minutes, all he's gonna try and do is score. I hope I don't get this wrong. My mates call me this. Whenever I predict something, it goes the other way. But I cannot see a world and he doesn't score. I just can't see. I think the whole ground is going to be on an absolute buzz, and him himself will be determined. So yeah, in fact, after this, I'm going to put a fiver on. Right.
I mean, I'm not sure if you watched any of the training clips that came out of where Liverpool do their socials, and obviously a lot of the lads were on internationals, but Chiesa was there, Curtis Jones was in training, Isak, and I tell you what, the movement, it's just the movement. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Darwin Núñez, so I'm not going to talk any smack on previous players, especially title winner players. But we used to watch Núñez play, and it just didn't feel as natural. You watch someone like Isak, and it just is so fluid in his movements. And my God, he can strike a ball. So it's exciting to see. I'm buzzing to see him. Another area I do want to talk about is obviously Robbo came on quite early on, earlier than probably people expected against Burnley at the weekend. And now he is starting at left back. How did you I'm going to come over to you, Dylan, first in this one. How do you kind of see that? We've got two really quality left backs. We're blessed really to have Robbo as a second fullback, if we're honest. How do you kind of see that role developing? What are your thoughts on Arne Slot going with Robbo for this particular match?
Yeah, I think I touched on it slightly after in the post game to the game at the weekend as well. In terms of that, I think Kirkaz at the moment, I think he's just trying that little bit too much to kind of impress, and almost a little bit rash in terms of his tackles, but just as a result of trying to be on the front foot too much and almost kind of being too much into jumping into a tackle, or I have to win this ball, I have to get it back straight away, rather than kind of realizing he doesn't need to always do that. So I think that's kind of something he just needs maybe an arm around the shoulder from some of the more experienced players, just to kind of be like, you'll settle into the team, that's still fine, you've got the technical ability, everyone can see that from your last couple of seasons, you've clearly got the ability on the ball and stuff, so just kind of take that out of him. But I think in terms of it's just a bit clever, isn't it, putting someone who's a little bit more experienced into these types of games where there is going to be slightly more pressure on it and stuff like that. And after the weekend, if he was chucked straight back in again and had another bad half an hour, it's another talking point that people are then going to be kind of stuck on. So I think it's just clever just to put Robertson in from the start tonight, let him kind of settle in. Kirkaz then probably plays at the weekend and see what happens from there. So yeah, I think it's just a case of letting him settle down a little bit and kind of grow into the team with the more experienced players around him.
Yeah, I think you've made some really good points. It's a different, Kirk has obviously had a brilliant season at Bournemouth, but this is a first open in the Champions League and a tough one as well with Atletico Madrid, experienced team in Europe as well. On the flip side then, Harj, we've got then Frimpong, who's just come back from injury, came on quite late against Burnley, opposed to early like Robbo, but made quite a big impact in quite a few different ways. Very attacking, obviously, searching for that goal. How do you see the balance of our fullbacks? Something that's been kind of a bit of a question. Jamie Carragher's question on the slot about it. We've got Frimpong in over Bradley, over Szoboszlai, who obviously brings something completely different. What's your thoughts about the balance then of our back four tonight?
I think it'd be fine. And I think again, I think Jamie Carragher's not only winding the fans up, he's winding on his lot up as well. But I think the way that the system works is that obviously it's the right side that we're concentrating on, and the left back shifts across, so it becomes a three a bit more. And I think the balance will be fine because it becomes a back three, and Frimpong bombing down there be fine. I think actually Robbo's more suited to that than Kirkers. Kirkers is more of a bombing, up and down left back. So I think from that perspective, he's sort of adjusting to a new style. But I think the balance will be fine. And I think if you remember against in the Charity Shield and also against Bournemouth, Frimpong's recovery pace, I think his recovery pace reminds you of Walker, when he was good. And I think that's why probably his hamstrings are slightly tight. But I think Sobo being in the team is going to help now because on that side, it's going to help him with the recovery. So, yeah, I think the balance will be fine. In fact, against a low block, well, not low block, they won't be Burnley, they'll be mid-block, Atletico Madrid. It will really help because the one thing I'm surprised with, but I saw Frimpong live when we beat them 4-0 and 4-1, I think it was, can't remember, at Anfield last season. And he didn't play fullback, he played the attacking, and he didn't impress me. But what I've seen of him so far, he's 1-2s, and his control, and it just seems like a player who just fits us. It just feels a bit more fluid than Bradley. So I think it'll be fine. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, Szoboszlai, Salah and him down that side, I think we'll be fine, honestly.
I think it's a completely different proposition, isn't it? I think Szoboszlai, a part of our problems against Burnley is Szoboszlai, if you look at him, he was almost like he played too central at points and too high up. And Salah didn't actually have anywhere to go. He had to stay wide because he's not going to stand on Szoboszlai's toes. Whereas we know that Frimpong is going to go round the outside of Salah. So that's a really interesting link up. I think Bradley's happy to go around the outside and inside. Yeah. I think Frimpong's much more suited around the outside. I think that's what we're going to see. So that'll be really interesting. And then the other player I just really want to kind of like have a little bit of a focus on is Gakpo, because it feels like Gakpo's hot and cold with the fans. It's either he's brilliant, he's so underrated, or oh my God, he's so one-dimensional, he can't do anything. And all he does is do the same thing over and over until he scores, and then he's the next best thing again, and he's underrated. It just seems to be so opposing opinions. I feel like tonight might be a big night for him because with ISAK coming in, and Ekitike can certainly play on that left wing position, and the impact that Rio Ngomoa is making off the bench is getting more and more significant now. I mean, I thought he was absolutely brilliant against Burnley. He only ran 2 or 3 times, but every single time it was purposeful, created something. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. So Dylan, how do you what are your opinions, first of all, on Gakpo? Don't get too personal about it, but what are your opinions on Gakpo, and how do you see unfair criticism, or do you see it as balance, and how do you see things going tonight against a very similar kind of low block?
Gakpo for the last couple of seasons. A couple of seasons ago, I wasn't his biggest fan in the world. I thought he kind of slowed things down a little bit too much when we were in transition. But last season in particular, really kind of stepped it up for me in terms of what he was producing. So him and Luis Diaz down that left-hand side last year, I think was really positive. And I think with Luis Diaz kind of stepping away, it kind of showed him that is now the next level. You need to be kind of pushing yourself to be consistently the starter on the left-hand side. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of interesting now the questions it poses with potentially Ekitike there, Chiesa can play there, and Ngomoa can play there. There's a lot of kind of options now. So I think it almost forces him now to either keep your level in terms of that and produce, even if you're not producing, I don't know, all the way through the game and kind of always linking up involved in the game. If you can still produce Salah numbers on the other side where you don't have a good game and you still score or assist, I know it's not going to happen every game because it doesn't happen for other people barring Salah. But if you can produce a goal and an assist every game, every other game, something like that, then you will keep your position in the team. It's then if you have a quiet game and you don't produce anything, that's when the questions start to come from people. And then, like you said, when Rio comes on for 5 minutes and he takes the defender on 2 or 3 times and everyone goes, God, he's direct, and we need that a little bit more of that. That's when those questions start to be posed. So I think if he can produce a goal or 2 here and there, I think he still will remain the starting left-hand side for us over the next few weeks. I think, like I say, though, if the numbers kind of dry up a little bit, then real questions will start to be asked of, should we then produce something else? Should Hugo start having a few games there? Should Chiesa start having a few starts there? So for me, he stays in the team, though. I think he will carry on over the next few weeks. So I don't think I'd be too much worried about it. And then in terms of tonight, the defenders they've got, I know that they will kind of sit in, but I think, like Harj was saying there, with down our right-hand side with Frimpong and Salah, I think it's going to be much more fluid down that side. So hopefully he can either come in around the back post like he did a couple of times last season, or even just produce something against, if they do kind of push over towards to kind of cover our right-hand side, it might free him up a little bit in some stages of the game too. So hopefully he can produce something again tonight. But yeah, I think it's just exciting. All of the front foot players we've got at the moment, they're kind of all questioning each other, all pushing each other now to either start or you have to sit on the bench for somebody else to do it for
agree,
you.
and I think we've been a little bit blessed with our attacking players' numbers over the last years, with Mane, with Firmino, with obviously Mo Salah producing. I mean, if we look at the impact in the game, Gakpo had a bigger influence than Salah. If we look at the 94 minutes of the game, but then Salah's the match winner and walks away with kind of like the glory. I'm just going to touch on a comment here from John, who's just mentioned about Robbo starting, and that you think he did well against Burnley. We have discussed that just briefly beforehand, and we agree. We actually agree with you, John, and we're not surprised that he's starting over Kirkes in the sense of the Champions League. And I think we need to break away from that mentality of, oh, Kirkes is our number one. That means it's a shocker if someone else starts over him. You know, ISAK is our number one. It's shocker if Ekitike. We've just got quality across the pitch, and that's gonna brew some amazing performances from the lads. Someone else I just want to cover against, because now we have kept 2 clean sheets in a row. Although I'm not sure we can boast too much a clean sheet against Burnley, because they didn't really try to score, other than 1 or 2 counter attacks. But I must say, Konate in the last couple of weeks, I thought he was brilliant against Arsenal, and I thought any time he was asked against Burnley was absolutely brilliant. He's got a bit of a different test tonight. He's got Griezmann and he's got Raspadori, 2 very different strikers than maybe he would face in the Premier League. Haj, what's your opinion on kind of like Konate and actually that relationship with Van Dijk? Obviously, lots of talk about Gay that didn't materialise, but he's answered his critics, has he not?
Yeah, I just quickly want to touch on Gakpo to make a comment on Gakpo.
Sure.
He's the player. It's one of my favourite players, Ginny Wijnaldum. Gakpo is the player that, when the match is going on, even if you're there live or watching on TV, gets the criticism. But then after the match, it's like, actually, no, he's a consistent 6 or 7 every week. And I think he does the right job. And I think he's predictable, and you need predictable players. And I think he's an easy target. And I think that's why he has that love-hate with the Liverpool fans. But yeah, Konate. Yeah, he's stepped up his performances, but to be honest, he's had no other choice. He has to step up his performances. My concern only is with Konate is, if he drops his level slightly, where else do we go? Joe Gomez, a fit Joe Gomez. I think he's the nicest possible way. His race is run. I think the injuries are caught up with Joe. And I think he just lacks that little half yard. And I think he hasn't really got pressure on his place. And I think, and people say this, but I think everybody who stands next to the BVD is raised a level. I think the fact that it's no coincidence he started playing well when Szoboszlai came into the right back position. Yeah, and let's see how he gets on with Frimpong in there. I still think he's got a lot to prove against where he is from last season's performances. I'm not happy that he hasn't signed a new contract. I think it's very obvious he's going Real Madrid. Yeah, and but he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who let it affect his performances. To be fair, Trent never let it affect his performances last season. So I just want to see now. Let's see you in the system that Slot wants us to play. Let's see you against a little pacey, tricky winger. A forward, Raspadori, he's got a bit of pace about him, a little bit of strength as well. Let's see how he does. So jury's still out. We've got a big one on against Everton. He really got bullied by Beto last season. Surprised both him and Van Dijk. So jury's out. Honestly, still for me. Arsenal, they had the guy who plays in jeans, and really nobody. But I hope he's back to what he was last season. So if he is, then good signs. But still a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think you made valid, points and concerns about Konate. I think the contract situation is going to loom over. It didn't affect Van Dijk, Salah, or Trent last year, so it would be interesting to see if or how it does. I think we're quite lucky it's a World Cup year, if I'm honest, because that's always going to keep the players focused, regardless of all the other noise that's happening around. Let's return our focus just back to tonight's game, obviously kicking off in not too long now, 40 minutes away from the kickoff against Atlético Madrid. Arne Slot really went for the Champions League last year. Was it 7 wins, a loss when he sent the kids out against PSV, but got top spot. I think it's just a real statement game because if you win your first game, it really kind of puts you in a good position, just mentally, with the games that go ahead, obviously playing against maybe not as big teams, more difficult games and everything, and obviously with the games coming thick and fast in the Premier League. What are your predictions for tonight, and what kind of subs do you think we'll see from Slot? It's a big talking point with Slot. Do you think we'll see the usual Chiesa for a striker? Do you think we'll see Rio at all? Do you think Salah will get subbed for the first time this season? Will Gravenberch get a rest, or will he just play 90 minutes every single game like he did last year? I think it's quite telling to see what he thinks about Everton based on today. So, Dylan, how do you see the game going, and what do you think about the approach with Everton in mind early Saturday coming up?
I think that the kind of latter points like you made about the substitutions, I think will be kind of very dependent on how the big game builds into it, what kind of score is around an hour, 70-minute mark. I think having already made the prediction that we're probably going to score early on, hopefully with Isak getting his goal early, for me, I think hopefully winning 1 or 2-0 by half time, and then if that does make them open up a little bit, hopefully either stretches the game a bit and we can either get another goal or the game just kind of dies off a little bit after that. But I think European nights at Anfield, first night of the Champions League, it's always going to be that kind of way, isn't it? It's going to be a raucous start. So hopefully we can get an early goal and kind of build on it from there. But I think if it does go that way and we are winning 1 or 2-0, maybe 2-3-0 by an hour, 70 minutes, then I think all of them kind of changes you mentioned will happen. I think Chiesa will probably come on for either Gakpo or down the middle, depending on if he wants to bring Ekitike on down the middle as well. Kind of like that. Salah, I don't think will end up coming off regardless of what the score is. I just think he'll be like, I want to keep scoring and kind of producing and getting my numbers up. So I'd be very surprised if it's not kind of finished by 70, 80 minutes if Salah does come off. If it's still even relatively close, I think he stays on for the full 90 as usual. And then I think in terms of the midfield changes, it could really depend on how Mac is feeling after the tackle from the weekend. So if there's any sort of risk on that, then you don't bother. You kind of leave. If Gravenberch's happy to carry on playing on and he's okay for 70, 80 minutes, then just leave him on. It could be you put on an endo depending on what kind of situation's happening in there as well, just to kind of see the game through towards the end if it's dying off. But yeah, I'm hoping we'll score a couple of early goals and then see what happens with the subs from there, really.
Yeah, I mean, not too dissimilar question to you, Hodge, as well. Dylan's made some good points about kind of like might be dependent on how the game actually goes. Salah will probably play the full 90 because when does he ever get subbed off? What are your feelings about it, Hodge?
Well, what I will guarantee, Freddy will not be coming on because he's not in the Champions League
squad.
squad.
Of course he won't be.
Oh, of course he isn't.
I'd love him to come on.
I didn't even look at it.
You sat on that for such a long time without saying anything as well.
Yeah, you could have jumped in on that.
I didn't leave you guys hanging. But yeah, so I think he'll I think whatever he does will clearly show what he has in mind for Everton. So if Robo plays 60 minutes or anything 60 minutes or less, he's definitely starting against Everton. So I do think he does start. So I think Kirkes will come on. I think Frimpong will only last the hour because he's only just come back from injury. Bradley will come on. I think Rio will get more minutes because I think if you tend to see, I think in the Champions League it's referees protect. You know, you don't get lumps kicked at you as much. Yeah, so I think that's why in my mind, because Rio didn't have to be included in the squad because of a homegrown. He just took Freddy's spot. Yeah, so I think Rio will play a lot more. I think we're going to see 30 minutes for him today. I think he'll come on, and I think it's just right for him because it's a technical game. And then I think obviously Isak, I think he might even take him off at 45, depending how he is. And I think he'll do the full 5. I think someone like depending on game style, like Dylan said, I think Endo might come on for Grav. And I think Birch is a nailed on coming off as well. Don might stay on all the games. So yeah, I think we don't know what his plans are for Everton. I think that the substitutions will show us what his plans are for Everton. But how great is our bench? We got Maka. We got Maka on the bench. It's just like amazing. You know, we got Maka. We got Ekitike. We got Kirkes. We got Bradley. So for me, it's just like, yeah, it's wealth and riches. So yeah, I think there'll be changes, but let's see. I want, I want to. The thing about Slot is, I think his team. I'm not. Klopp was my favourite ever manager. Absolutely loved him to bits. But I think his staff. I think the substitutions were always predetermined. It's going to be. But I think Slot has a predetermined for each player. But I think he's a bit more. He's a bit more tactical. It feels like. Yeah, and it's like the game state, and very rarely does he not have an influence the way he's been since he's been at Liverpool in the game. So it'd be interesting what he does, and whatever he does do is going to be the right substitutions. But one thing Dylan's right on is that I can't see Salah coming off, not yet.
No, I mean, I wish I shared your belief, Haj, that Rio would get 30 minutes. I do think he's being protected. I think not only because of the physical side, it's not only the physical side in the sense for clattering, it's also kind of like actually the demanding of the fitness side of things as well. He's only a kid. He's literally just turned 17, which is still a kid. His body isn't developed. I know he's quite a stocky little lad, but he's strong, isn't he? He's got low center of gravity and he's strong. But also his bit of protection, I feel, there's a lot of expectation for Rio. And let's just say he's on for 30 minutes. There's a greater possibility that he'll be out of the game for longer periods. And then it's also about protecting, when he's coming in for an impact, he can run at a defender 2 or 3 times. He can't run at defenders for 30 minutes over and over and over in that way. Well, he could actually. I do think he could. But it's a bit of protection, I think, and just settling expectations. But I really hope he gets a decent amount. 10, 15 minutes, I'll be absolutely buzzing with. No matter what the score is, because he's proven twice now that he can come on and influence the game in games that we need a goal very, very late on. Really excited by him. The only last thing to really touch on is, I mean, we have talked about the bench already being incredibly strong. The last bit, really, the final missing piece of the jigsaw, I guess, is Florian Wirtz, how we get the best out of him. Now, I think this is a really good game for Wirtz. This is what he's more familiar with. This is more like going to be what he's used to with Bayern Leverkusen than what he's been used to with Liverpool. I actually thought he had a brilliant second half when he was like a butterfly. He was popping up all over the place. And once he did that in the first 5 minutes, he then kept on doing it. And he had a growing influence in the game. I do think he's trying a bit too hard, like Kirkez is, in a different way. He's trying too hard for that little cute final pass, that little cute little 1-2 of Salah, but then he had 2 or 3 shots that were well blocked by Burnley because they had 9 players in the box. That you never know. So Dylan, it'll be interesting to see Wirtz as well and how he links up. He does seem at times another striker of Ekitike, but Isak is a lot more mobile than Ekitike is, a lot more. So it'd be interesting to see the effect that has. What are your feelings about Wirtz tonight? I feel like it could be a good one for him. It could be a big one as well.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of, like you said, about the way they'll probably set up. Is probably hopefully a little bit more suited to the way kind of he's used to. In terms of so far during the season, it's just kind of the way social media is now. The second you don't have a goal or an assist in a game, everyone says you had a stinker. Everyone says you're not having the best time. But like you said, if you watch the game back at the weekend, he was actually involved in quite a lot in the second half. It just didn't quite work out in terms of getting a goal or assist. So then people write it off immediately and say he's still not playing very well. If one or two of them go in at the weekend and he scores a goal or two, all of a sudden he's man of the match and he's been best player on the pitch. So that's kind of small margins, isn't it, in between what kind of changes people's opinions on someone really quickly. And I think tonight, if he was to get an assist or 2, hopefully that'll kind of then bounce on for the next couple of weeks and the ball starts to go his way a little bit more in those small spaces. But it's a change we've got to try and get used to as well. We haven't really played with that almost natural number 10 since a Coutinho type of role. So it's almost just getting used to having someone within those pockets that wasn't normally there, because we had a kind of fluid front three that keep people kind of overlapped and stuff like that before. We were kind of always transitioning and changing. So just getting used to almost picking up those spaces and, like you say, almost supporting the striker sometimes, having to drop wide like he's naturally doing towards the left. It's just getting used to where he's kind of going to be, and Salah has to get used to it for when he's trying to assist and Florian Wirtz is trying to run in. Florian Wirtz has to get used to everyone else's movement. So people are saying there's a worry. I'm not worried in any way, shape, or form about how he started. I think it's going to come good, and in the next couple of weeks, when he has a few more goals and assists, people can then start writing him off then and see how
I
they
think you
feel
hit the
then.
nail on the head. I think we've been used to kind of like more of a workman like midfield, haven't we? Even Sobbo last year when he played in that Wirtz role, he was a lot more like an 8 rather than a 10, really. He was covering so much ground. I mean, Wirtz does as well. He's got an engine on him, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah,
that
cool.
technical kind of player is we haven't had a player like that for a little bit of time, have we? Can you imagine, rival fans, if Wirtz and Isak both drop an absolute worldie tonight? Oh, it's going to be glorious, isn't it? Right, so we're half an hour away from kickoff then. So Dylan and Haj, I think we're going to call it there and just look forward to kind of like the pre-match entertainment and show and listen to the waffle that they talk about on TNT, whatever it will be. But really appreciate your thoughts ahead of the game. Hopefully we get an Isak goal tonight. If we don't, we know 2 people that we can blame for that one. But I've secretly kept quiet about it. Just direct it towards the both of you. But appreciate everyone for listening and watching at home as well. Enjoy tonight, and let's see if we can start the Champions League campaign with a win like we did last year.
Thank you.
Cheers, Dylan.